TalkSport. The four horsemen of the apocalypse have got nothing on these guys. The Clash of the Titans on TalkSport.
It is TalkSport, the Clash of the Titans. Let's just reintroduce our esteemed panel here around the table for this very special Clash of the Titans over the festive period here. The voice you hear heckling somewhat in the background.
Well, I ask you who the hell you are.
I'll get to that. He's been warned. He is Mr. Mike Dickin. We have, of course, also from the Sports Breakfast, Mr. Mike Parry, and from TalkSport's late night show, the larger-than-life Mr. James Whale, who's messing around in the corner with some scenery and he shouldn't be.
Yes, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to have you with us. This is, of course, our Christmas
it's not your show, James.
Sorry,
all right. It's okay. Lots of subjects to get through. We're talking about things over the last 12 months.
Small vote.
And we can't let this go by with a bit of Posh and Beck's detail.
He reckons if he talks quickly, we
might listen.
Over the last 12 months, Posh and Beck's have... I'm going to ignore them, Mike Parry.
No, that's
And I think you can contribute to start with. On Posh and Beck's, the media circus that surrounds these people, it's been huge. Some say it's been disruptive to them. But, of course, we have two, some might say, very talented people. Certainly one of our greatest sportsmen. How do you think they fared in this last 12 months?
Well, first of all, you can't ignore the two chaps in the studio with me. These guys are special. Voice of reason over there, and the man here who never takes no for an answer. Right, now, let's get to Posh and Beck.
Yes, I do.
Particularly...
There's something you two want to tell us?
Particularly when somebody comes up and says, what are you drinking, Mike? Right, now, now, let's get to Posh and Beck's quite seriously. First of all, I was the first broadcaster in this country and the first journalist to recognise that, in fact, David Beckham was a role model for all young men. I recognised this about 5 years ago. Whilst everybody else still had their heads in the clouds, you know, a young man with long blonde hair, you know, scores goals and it can't really speak the Queen's English in the manner that we prefer him to, everybody's knocking him and having a go at him, sent off against Argentina, of course, in the World Cup in '98, excuse me, and everybody's condemning him. No. I said he's a role model for young men. He got married very young, he's a responsible father, he earns good money and keeps a roof over his family's heads, both in this country and in Madrid. You never see him leaving a bar in a state of insobriety. You never hear about him trashing hotel rooms. You never see him on the pitch verbally abusing either another player or a member of the crowd or the spectators or having a go at the referee. This man is a role model. He did
nothing about roasting.
He did nothing at all.
Sounds a bit boring.
He deserves everything he's got in life. He deserves everything he's got. Having said that, he is charismatic like Johnny Wilkinson isn't. Yep. Johnny Wilkinson is so goddamn boring that, in fact, in the wake of England winning the Rugby World Cup, it's going to do the game more harm than good if they don't take Johnny off the stage and put somebody like Martin Johnson back on, who at least has got some personality and character and flair. So what Beckham's done is, without upsetting anybody, he's brought this fantastic panache, this celebrity lifestyle, this showbiz-type feel to football, with the earrings and the hair and the Mohican, the extraordinary way he goes about his life, the fleet of cars that he drives around in, and his wife, who people forget, by the way, was an original member of the most successful girls' band of all time, who had 3 consecutive #1 Christmas hits. You know, we talked about the Christmas hit a minute ago, right? 3 consecutive #1 Christmas hits.
She was the silent minority.
I'm sorry, but she was very successful in her own right, so she's very successful in her profession. Bex is the world's most famous footballer. Put them together, they're the perfect couple, and they deserve all the success they've acquired.
James Whale.
I agree with every single thing Mike has said about the Beckhams. Not only that, I would like to go further. I mean, I'm not a great football pundit, of course. I know very little about the game, except that you have to kick the ball.
Do you know which one of these two kicks the ball?
Yes, I do. And I think that the way, as an outsider, if you like, the way David Beckham has...
like Posh.
Would you behave yourself one moment? The way David Beckham has actually come back from being one of the most hated men, you may remember after the foul in the World Cup, he became one of the most hated men in the country. The way he's come back, the way he's actually improved the way he speaks, because I'm a great believer that half the problems of the young people in this country today is the fact that they don't know how to communicate verbally. It's a shame, and if we actually spent more time worrying about how you talk, not that you should talk you know, the Queen's English, but talk in a way that is...
Language.
Sorry, in a way that is understood and accepted. The way that Beckham has done this, I think, is absolutely amazing. Mike is also right that Victoria was
Are
a
you
member...
seeking a rise or what?
For God's sake!
He's got to get one.
When somebody says something good, you should reflect it. Then, of course, you can slag them off the other times.
No. Oh, God. Have you finished now?
Could I get back to my point? The point is
What is
this.
the point?
The point is that the Beckhams are probably the best thing to come out of this country
Yeah, they've
for
gone to Spain.
100 years.
Yeah,
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I think Alex Ferguson should have had his knighthood removed from upsetting David Beckham and him wanting to leave the country. Furthermore, I won't go on and say all the things I want to do, but I'll come to the point quickly now. Furthermore, I would kick the Windsors out of Buckingham Palace
put
and
the
Windsor,
Buckingham
and
in.
I would put the Beckhams in because
You think
I
they'd
believe
make a better royal family?
I believe that the royal family is something that is here as a PR. Oh, for goodness sake, is a PR exercise for this country. It's a promotion for Britain, and that Victoria and David would do it better than anybody
We'll
within
come
the
on
House
to
of
the
Windsor
Royals
now.
in a second. Just before I come
Do
to
I
Mike,
get a go at this?
just before I come to you, Mike, let me just ask
Is it
Mike
worth
Parry
letting
this.
him have a go at this?
Do you think giving David Beckham the captaincy of England, do you think that was the kind of the turning point for him?
Well, once again, of course, I was the original broadcaster, the original journalist who
Yes.
advocated that David Beckham should get the captaincy of England.
Yep.
And do you know what happened? The moment he got the captaincy of England, he matured by about 4 years.
Didn't he
now,
just?
let me just tell you what happened in Istanbul when we were in Turkey for the England game, where we secured our route through to Portugal 2004 next year. The Rio Ferdinand issue then was all about, can he play for England or not,
Yeah.
whilst he's under suspicion.
We shouldn't allow the Turks
of
into the
turning
bloody
down-
I'm
European
not going
Union.
there either.
Excuse me, James, excuse me, of turning down the opportunity to take a drugs test, OK? So, Mr. Palios,
Preposterous. Oh,
very strong
God.
chief executive, said no, he can't play.
Yeah.
Right. We then are faced by the potential of a player
Could I
strike.
say something about that before? Because
Hang
I
on,
think Rio Ferdinand...
let
I
Mike-
was sorry for Rio Ferdinand.
Let Mike continue this point. It's a very
think-
important
and
point
I think
here.
that bloke with the grey hair from the FA needs a good slapping.
It's a
That's
very
Mr.
important point
that's
Mike's
Mr.
making here, and very relevant to the Posh and Beck's question.
So the squad actually fly out
Have I
to...
gone home?
The squad actually
I haven't
fly
heard
out...
from me for a while.
Hang on, Mike, hang on. The squad actually fly out to Istanbul in a state of turmoil because,
right.
you know, they're threatening strikes and all this kind of stuff.
I think
now,
I've gone home.
what normally happens with the FA is the press officers go to the players and say, would you come and do a press conference, please? Every single one of them refused to appear in front of the press, except for David Beckham, who said, I'm the captain of England, it's my responsibility, I'll do it. He came bounding through the doors at the back of the ballroom in the Hyatt Regency, I think
What
it was.
colour
in
were the doors?
Istanbul. He leapt up onto the stage, pulled a chair back, sat down, he exuded confidence, and he exuded masterful control of that
Absolutely.
room. And all the questions going flying in, are the players going on strike? No. Is there any problem with Rio? No. Are we behind England? Yes. And he completely changed the whole atmosphere of Aid England camp,
was
the
great.
morale of the team, the morale of the supporters, and
It's
in fact,
almost
the
like being there, isn't it?
and in fact, the morale of the country itself. We went on to draw the game.
It wasn't the best
following
game
night.
of football in the world, though, was it?
We went on to draw the game the following night and got through to Euro 2004. In my view, that was the most mature performance I've seen by any footballer.
After all that
ever.
messing around, it's amazing we actually drew the game, quite frankly, the pressure that was put on the
I
team.
think at this
and that
point,
bloke, what's his name,
let's
the head
bring
of the
in
FA, the one in the
James
new one.
Right. James, I've got to ask you.
He needs to be
Some controls.
restrained.
Measurement, lads.
Sorry.
Mr. Mike Dickin.
My entire moment of...
Right, we've run out of time on
Thank
that
you.
question.
No. I just have one thing to say about Posh and Becks. Whatever they do, wherever they go, is a matter of supreme indifference to me. I couldn't care less.
Okay, we're back with some more questions. This is Clash of the Titans on TalkSport. We've got lots to get through, still lots of issues over the last 12 months. Those points in the news in the world of sport, entertainment, whether it's on the domestic or the international stage, we'll chew them over here. Mike Dickin is with us, Mike Parry and James Well. I'm Ian Collins.
I didn't know I was
sharing...
still here, actually.
Oh, you're still here?
Oh.
Very much still here. Sharing this wonderful bit of banter here on this festive edition of Clash of the Titans. We're back with more coming up next on TalkSport.
Name.
Chris Cooper,
Occupation.
host of the Sports Quiz on TalkSport.
Specialised subject.
This week's fantastic Sports Quiz prize.
Your time on this week's fantastic sports quiz prize starts now.
I'm going to send someone racing in Ireland. I've got the top tickets for the Punchtown Festival, the Irish equivalent of the Grand National meeting, plus the flights and 2 nights hotel accommodation.
To give yourself a sporting chance to win this fantastic prize, text the word quiz to 80088 now. Play the UK's only dedicated sports quiz
This Saturday from 4.
on TalkSport with yoursportingchallenge.com, the #1 in sports travel. Text costs 25p. Normal sending charges apply.
There are now many treatments for erection problems, including at least 4 different tablets, injections, vacuum pumps, and other approaches. So if you're currently considering treatment, or if you're already taking a treatment, or have tried one in the past, Man Matters can help. For a free booklet about this common condition, call Man Matters, sponsored by Lily Icos, on free phone 0800 096 1184. That's 0800 096 1184, or visit www.manmatters.co.uk.
So, there we were, drinking in uncharted territory, when one of the locals takes a dislike to me. He was size 3, a real manimal. And me, being a black belt in no can do, I decided to give peace a chance. I turned on the Comedy Channel. And 2 encores later, the guy's laughing so much, he's put his pants on a warm wash. It seems I've cut the right wire. Situation diffused. Smirnoff Ice. Liquid perfection.
Call Man Matters, the free and confidential information service about erection problems, sponsored by Lily Icos, on 0800 096 1184.
Christmas on 1089 and 1053 AM, the UK's biggest commercial radio station. Talk Sport. It's the Baubles.
Okay, it is TalkSport. Welcome back. It's Clash of the Titans. Very busy show. An awful lot to get through here. They've come under the microscope
again,
a little bit so far. Please, Mr. Dickin. They've come under the microscope. They've had a bit of a digging from some of you guys so far. But let's talk about them properly here. The royal family. What kind of year has it been for the royal family? James Whale.
I like that big fat one with a beard that sits in the chair and watches telly all the time.
Isn't that the Queen Mother? She died.
What are you talking about?
The royal family. Carolina Hearns.
Oh,
I
no.
see her.
Don't be silly.
It's a television-based gag, everybody. James Whale.
Royal family. Oh, I'm sorry, I have absolutely no time for the royal family.
But you always say this. You always
let
say
me
this.
explain. Let me explain.
But
all
again,
right?
wouldn't you melt if the Queen walked in?
No, I've been in the
Weak at the
presence of
knees.
the Queen, and it doesn't bother me one iota. I certainly wouldn't bow. I wouldn't curtsy. I wouldn't whatever. I used to live in the wilds of North Yorkshire, and one day she came to donate the Maundy money to the local residents of a town
This was the
called
Queen, yeah?
Ripon. And she was coming past our house, actually. So much aggravation from the special service who wanted to check the hedgerows, look in the flipping drains.
Perfectly reasonable. She's head of
all the
state.
place.
Security risk.
Who wants to bump her off? Because, look, I wish her no ill at all. She's an elderly lady. I wish her no ill at all. I hope she could be allowed to. You know, her family is dysfunctional. She's obviously got more problems than most of us and needs to be able to address these. She wouldn't even be the head of state if it wasn't for the abdication of whatever his name was back in the...
Well, how far you want to go back? I mean, you can...
I don't want to... No, listen. I suggested before, and I'll stick by it, that it's time. I believe we need a royal family.
I don't.
But I believe we need a royal family for the theatrical of it. I want to see Trooping of the Colour. I want to see the household cavalry. I want to see the
actors in for that.
So it's a theatrical thing.
It is it's a
public relations.
It's a PR stunt for this country, and I also want to see the head of state coming out on the balcony at Buckingham Palace, waving to the assembled crowds during the height of our summer, when lots of tourists come over here. Like the Pope can do it, she can do it, or he can do it. And I seriously think that maybe the Beckhams, when he's finished playing football, would be good to fulfil that role.
Anybody.
I seriously
I mean,
think it
okay,
would.
Mike
I've never heard so much in my life, James. We don't need a royal family. They're an anathema. They're totally outdated. Hand them in for somebody once upon a time getting on a horse and getting an army together and charging down from Warwick and sticking a few knives and arrows at somebody else's backside. We wouldn't have a royal family. We don't need a royal family. I mean, I'm Mr. Queen now. I'll let her finish her reign as Queen. They're a dysfunctional family who should be living in a council house in Sheffield. With the social services round every other week to check on their marriage.
Mike Parry.
Well, I go down James's route at least halfway, if not a bit more. First of all, fantastic for tourism, fantastic for the establishment of this country as an oldie-worldy type kingdom. I do love the wealth that
Pomp and
surrounds the royal family.
ceremony.
Pomp and ceremony. Windsor Great Park, Windsor Castle, Buckingham Palace, changing the guard, all of that love. What I do object to, quite seriously, and I've tussled all my adult life to try and bring these two together, is what a useless...
3 weeks?
Thank you very much, Mike. Yeah. What a useless... You can stop laughing now. What a useless, wastrel individual Prince Edward is, and why my taxes go to support a lazy bum who's got very little to do in life. What a lazy, wastrel bum Prince Andrew is, and why my taxes go to support his ridiculous mode of life. I went to the Open Golf competition once. I think it was in Royal Lytham St Anne's, and he turned up in a Bentley, and some flunky gets out and opens his door, gets him out, and he came out with his eyes wide open and sort of stared at people and started shaking hands. And I thought, this is a man who has no role in life, nothing to do except, you know, go and shake hands for people at golf competition. So he's got a hopeless position. Edward's got a hopeless position. Some of the ladies I'll tolerate because they're glamorous. I was a huge fan of Diana, Princess of Wales, because I thought she created...
Me too.
She created tremendous wealth in this country.
And I believe that she was killed as well.
She was
I don't. Hang on, let's get on that in a minute.
We can come back to that.
She created tremendous wealth in this country. You think of the number of people who came to this country just because of Diana. Think of the number of books and papers and magazines that have been sold all around the world with Diana on the cover. She was a one-woman industry.
What
very good for the...
I spent a lot of money.
The only saving grace of this royal family...
What about that? Regardless of whether you like or dislike the royal family, whether you think it's undemocratic, whatever the pros and cons of all of that, the Queen herself has done a very, very difficult job very well.
Dignified woman.
Very dignified.
Well, she's clearly an inadequate and incompetent parent. All her kids have been off doing it with everybody else all their lives. I mean, she hasn't got one stable marriage. The best laugh she ever had was when Philip told her that Edward was going to join the Marines.
Yeah, Mike's right there. And the other thing to consider, fellas, is remember the royal family have access to the very best educational establishments in this country, which has some of the best education establishments in the world, and all the royal kids turn out to be as thick as a plank.
Hang on. We only have this royal family by an accident of history, all right? And that's the way royal families have been. That's why I think we should consider putting up a couple of high-profile personalities in the future and voting on who we would like to take on the
like
role
Pop
of royal
Idol,
family.
Royal Idol.
Royal Idol, if you like.
Okay.
And I think the Beckhams would walk it. But apart from that, you know, we need somebody to promote this country. We want the royal family taken out of our politics. We do not want somebody unelected reading the Prime Minister's speech. However much you disagree with the politicians of this country, at least they were elected by the people, or the people who could be bothered to vote.
I'm thinking on what you've said. We could have the Queen's speech read by Julian Clary.
Well, we could do the way it's going on. I mean, none of us have, and okay, you might laugh about it and think, well, it's not important, but it could be important. None of us have any rights as citizens in this country.
We're not citizens.
We're not citizens.
We're subjects.
We're subjects of the Crown. There is no written
mere semantics,
constitution.
surely.
No, not at all. Not at all. If somebody
do you feel like
no,
a subject?
Not.
Do you feel like a subject, James? I feel like a citizen.
No.
I feel like I've got a stake in the society.
I know
I don't
you,
feel
you're
like
bloody chairman.
I don't feel like I'm dominated by
Nobody asked you.
Would you fight for it? No, I don't think you would.
Yes, I would.
I would.
I would fight
and
for this
if they tried to use
You
this
what?
against me, which they could, he's only joking.
I would fight for
his
this
airy,
country.
fairy, theatrical friends. He's all
I would
Why?
fight for this
What is there worth
Why
fighting
would I not
for?
fight? If I was,
What is
if I
there
was
worth
called-
fighting for?
There's an awful lot still
Go
in
on,
this country.
name
Still
one.
a lot of
Name one thing.
Girls.
The
Name one
fabric of
thing.
this country
Girls.
is still worth fighting for.
Hang on, you're not chairman. It is.
Well, I'm taking
I'll
over.
come back, James.
It's a
You carry
coup.
on.
If
It's a
Tony
coup.
Blair loses it, as he might, he may.
I thought he'd already lost it.
He may invoke some of these powers. That means that he could use the royal family, and we could find ourselves being dictated to, and then the revolution would have to happen, or we would just prove to everybody else we were just serfs. We would just do what that has to be taken.
Just imagine
no, we need
if
to have
it goes on and we get Queen Camilla. That sounds more like a bit of ice cream to me.
Well, we won't. We won't.
In fact, let's just pick up on the point about fighting for your country. Would you fight for your country, Mike Parry?
Undoubtedly, I'd be the first to the recruiting office. I wish in many ways, and I mean this sincerely, you know, you still see old war films of, and you see old war footage actually, because of digital TV these days, you get access to history channels, all that kind of stuff, and it still brings a tear to my eye when I see those boys who came out of Oxford and Cambridge University at the age of 19 and 20, leaping into a Spitfire, going off to face the Hun.
Absolutely.
So many of them never came back. That, to me, is still the proudest moment in our national history. I'd have been the first down the recruiting office, and to be honest, at that age, 19 or 20, you don't think you're going to die anyway, so you're fearless.
Let me ask Mike Dickin. Obviously, it's massively hypothetical because you'd be disqualified on a number of points, Mike, but would you fight for your country if you had to?
No, absolutely not.
Why not?
I just don't think there's anything here worth fighting for. I'd be the first.
Why don't you push off to France where you've got a house then and live there?
Shush, we don't talk about that.
By the way, stay there.
Yeah,
I'll buy you a one-way ticket on a ferry.
I'll tell you what, if you put your little hat on, you could be the Don Estelle of the British Army.
Oh, yeah, really? Do you know what you could be? You could be a blinking haystack in France, you could.
Look, children, please, if we could just...
James, would you fight for your country?
Well, I'm not, because of the sort of life that I have led and my
Yes or no will do.
I have fought for my country.
Have you?
Well,
Tell us about that.
I'm not allowed to talk about it. I'm not prepared to talk
Are you saying you're some sort of secret agent, James Bond kind of character?
I can't say.
Bloody fantasist.
But...
No, he's talking about the Munich Beer Festival circa 1958.
You may well laugh, but it's people like me...
So you're saying you have fought for your country?
It's people like me that have allowed you two to have the
Don't tell me you're the real
now.
James Bond.
I am not. Listen,
How have you fought for your country? Tell us.
I'm not prepared to talk about
You
it.
can't wheel out sentences like I fought for my country and then one else to back it up. You hinted at that.
No, I'm not. I'm sorry, but I'm not prepared to elaborate.
Would you fight
my
for your
two friends over at the other side have always been in a position where they would never have been allowed to fight for their country because their fitness would have come into question.
No, I have fought for my country, James. I have.
We're not talking about playing a game of football at the girls' school. There is no doubt.
No. I'd fight for that.
I've fought for my country.
We're not talking about being on the terraces of an international football match either. No. Now, listen, this is a very serious point.
How long is it going to take?
There's no time at all.
Good.
Let's
move on then.
When one fights for one's country, there are several ways in which one does fight for one's country. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be piloting a plane or shooting a gun. There are other ways to fight.
What did you do, moon at some Germans or what?
Move on, I'm not going to.
Okay, let's move on. All right, we'll come back. It's the Clash of the Titans on TalkSport. We're back with more lively debate, and it's getting very lively here on TalkSport.
Avoid a polar bear nose by wearing more clothes and a sunbed for your cold protection. Or get warmer in total with someone who's local with a call to the Singles Connection.
Hello? Register now on 0871 220 0004 and we'll text you a list of like-minded local people in the place where you live. The TalkSport Singles Connection. 0871 220 0004 or click talksport.net.
So, there we were, drinking in uncharted territory, when one of the locals takes a dislike to me. He was size 3, a real manimal. And me, being a black belt in no can do, I decided to give peace a chance. I turned on the comedy channel. And 2 encores later, the guy's laughing so much, he's put his pants on a warm wash. Well, it seems I've cut the right wire. Situation diffused. Smirnoff Ice. Liquid perfection.
DAB digital radios cost from under £100. If you leave it till they're all sold out, it won't be the chestnuts that get roasted in your house this Christmas. Does it do digital? Only if you're quick.
Text. Text the word FUN to 89911 and join the UK's biggest one-on-one adult text chat service. Grab your mobile and text FUN to 89911. In seconds, you'll be chatting live and one-on-one. Try it now. Text FUN to 89911.
Over 18s only. Service provided by FTEX. For customer services, call 08707 60 67 68. Messages cost up to £1.50. Standard network rates apply.
Coming from the cold this winter with a brand new frost-free friend with the TalkSport Singles Connection.
0871 220 0004. Calls charged at national rates.
Christmas on 1089 and 1053 AM. The UK's biggest commercial radio station. Talk Sport. It's the Baubles.
It is TalkSport. This is Clash of the Titans. And with us in the studio, Mr. Mike Dickin, Mr. Mike Parry, Mr. James Whale. I'm Ian Collins, and we're debating issues. Please.
Mistletoe and wine.
Will you not make a difficult job any more harder than it needs to be, James? Thank you. Right, here's an issue that's very dear to a lot of people's hearts, particularly Mr. Mike Dickin. It's the issue of asylum seekers. It's dominated this year's news. Mike Dickin will let you kick this off.
Pull up the drawbridge.
Simple as that.
Just pull up the drawbridge. We're flooded. Nobody knows how many are here. The Home Office won't even confirm the figures that they put out themselves. They've no idea how many people are here. We're paying them £2 million a day. That's what it's costing you here. £5 million a day, I beg your pardon. £2 billion a year just to have asylum seekers in this country. They are getting more in handouts than nurses or teachers get in their pay packet. And there's something very stupidly wrong with that.
What about asylum seekers that are coming here because they're, and it's the old story, they're escaping an oppressed regime, they can't survive in their own country, someone's going to put a bullet in their head if they hang around, they come here, should we not be proud? Should we not be proud to house these people?
Easy answer to that question. Tell me the nearest country to England.
France.
Okay. Are they being oppressed in France? Are people being threatened with their lives in France? Are there religious intolerance in France? Therefore, the French have got the right to come here? No. So nobody's got the right to come here unless they're from France, because you're supposed to stop at the first country that you come to where you are not under threat. That means that no asylum seekers should come to Britain.
Okay, Mike Parry.
True.
Well, I was reading last week, my old pal Ross Benson from the Daily Mail went over to Slovakia because the Slovakian gypsies are apparently massing to come to this country because for some reason I can't figure out, Mike Dickin might have a take on this, we've now dropped the visa requirements for Slovakian gypsies to enter our country. They can come at will. And that's because apparently a deal's been done between the British government and Slovakian government to say, our economy's improving over here, these Slovakian gypsies won't want to come to your country anymore, except that Ross Benson found about 30,000 of them queuing up ready to get on the boat. So I don't quite understand this. The only theory I can come to is this, that most politicians are quite wealthy. If they're not middle class, they're rich. And that means that they live in suburbs where Slovakian gypsies will never turn up camping in their front garden. So they try to be populist with Europe, you know, on the basis that, well, you know, let's all be buddies, and one of these days, if we're in Europe, you know, we might actually have a chance of running Europe or running a part of Europe. So we'll let all the Slovakian gypsies come here. But they know that the Slovakian gypsies will only cause trouble to people in little towns in Kent, to the inner city areas of our major metropolises like London and the Midlands, Birmingham, maybe Bristol, places like that. But actually, the people who made the decision, like those Burkes 40 years ago, built these high-rise flats and never had to live in them, will be unaffected by their political decisions.
The enlargement of the common market, including the Slovakian gypsies, means that as of about the middle of next year, 72 million people will have the right, not the opportunity, the right to come and live in this country.
James, well, can you add anything to this, or are you unanimous with your colleagues?
I'm in total agreement. But the problem is, you know, the people we're paying the money out are the people who come here legally, or the people who come here openly, I should say, who are applying to be asylum seekers in this country, because until they are, when they're admitted to this country and they're given permission to stay, then they get the same sort of rights as the rest of us. Until then, they get all these handouts, and it is an appalling situation.
How is it that they get through France? At the point that Mike
because the
Dickin
French
how can they
want them.
possibly?
Why should the French
but
have them?
Is there not an international obligation?
No,
if
these
somebody
people.
stops at your country?
I would say this, and this will upset a few people. I would say that none of these people are in fear of their lives, because if they are running in fear of their lives, as soon as they get out of the country that they are in fear of their lives in, they are relaxed, and it's not here. The only people who come to our country. And if they come in the front door or the back door we don't know. The front door's bad enough. The back door, there could be millions of people hiding in this country, but we don't know about. I would suggest that nobody should be allowed to come here and seek asylum. I would suggest that we could say no to every single person, family that comes here and say, why are you here? There's no reason to be here, because every country that surrounds us, Scandinavia, Germany, France, Spain, these countries do not behave badly to their citizens. They would be accepted.
Okay, Mike Parry.
Well, in reply to that, James, I agree with some of what you're saying, but immigration per se is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing.
As long as people have got a reason to come here and got a skill that we need. Absolutely agree with you.
The birth rate in this country is going down.
I couldn't agree with you more.
A shrinking population means a shrinking economy.
But we don't need people who come here purely for the benefits that we're going to give them.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you, but I lived in America America for 3 years, and America was built on immigration, like mass immigration, you know, from Italy, obviously, from Ireland, from Germany, from Scandinavia, from even South America.
Even
and
Scotland.
And Scotland, very much so from Scotland, Mike. And look what a, magnificent, dynamic economy they've got. So it's, per se, it's not bad.
But that's not what we're complaining about.
No. What I totally agree with you, James, is that anybody who comes here and wants to take more out of our economy than they're prepared to put in should be subject to a 6 months mean test and booted out again.
We're importing the thieving jackass. So we're importing known criminals. We're allowing known criminals into this country where they've been criminalised in their own country and been jailed for it. We're allowing them to come here and be free.
We are hampered with the politically correct. In France, they wouldn't accept that. The reason they don't stay in France is they aren't given this.
If that is the case, is a vote for Michael Howard likely to change things?
It could just do, and anyway, a vote for anybody apart from Tony Blair has got to be a good thing as far as I'm concerned. But I don't care who you vote for, but don't vote for that twit.
I don't think he'll be in the job to vote for in the next election anyway.
The Press Complaints Council have just upheld a complaint from an illegal immigrant who complained about being described as an illegal immigrant. He came to this country with no papers and no documents. He came in hidden in the back of a lorry. The lorry driver who brought him in got fined £2,000 for bringing him in even though he didn't know he was there.
Hang him!
Because he was illegal. And when he was described in the papers as an illegal immigrant, he complained and said that he shouldn't be described so because it was prejudicial to his case.
And what about the people who recently got away with rape? These illegal asylum seekers...
James, you don't have to shout.
I'm sorry.
You don't have to shout.
No, you don't have to shout.
I'm emotionally disturbed.
We can all hear you.
I'm emotionally disturbed at this.
Yeah, we've known that for a long time.
These people who came in here...
Intellectually disturbed.
And they have... It's been in all the papers. You've read about it. They've committed rape. They've committed sexual deviant acts against people, and they've got off because they have been here and apparently have convinced some namby-pamby court that they are likely to be killed if they were sent back to their own country. Send them back.
Mike.
Well, I bought some Christmas paper in Epsom High Street the other night, and it was a freezing cold night. No,
it's a nice market.
Yes, absolutely, in the market in the middle there. You absolutely freezing cold night. And
do you know it's the widest high street in Surrey?
It is, but it's not the widest in the country. That's Marlborough in Wiltshire, the widest in the country.
No, you're fascinating stuff. Let's just get on with it.
So so there's a chap there, plying his wares, selling Christmas paper and bags and balloons, all that kind of stuff. And I buy the paper off him. This guy can't speak English. This guy has got it all chalked up, what it costs. I give him £10, he gives me £2 change, turns to his next customer. Now, this man's clearly an illegal immigrant who's gone out and bought himself a load of Christmas wrapping paper, set himself up in a stall on Epsom High Street, and is trying to make himself a few bob. That sort of immigrant, great for this country. Dynamic, go ahead, wants to try and create something, and is creating wealth.
Couldn't agree with you.
Do you think the Conservatives are going to change it if they were to get in? Is it going to make any difference, or is this all a big Euro plan?
The Conservative Party traditionally is supposed to stand for enterprise and stand on your own 2 feet and go forward and don't rely too much on the state. So if they can have a means test to distinguish between those who come here to welch on our economy and those who come here to try and contribute to our economy, it'll be a good thing.
You don't think he stole that paper, do you?
Couldn't we have done? Because sometimes people have to start in life by taking chances.
James, never mind about that. Couldn't we have some situation where everybody that comes to this country...
Why do you shout all the time?
I'm sorry, I can't hear myself. I'm going deaf. Go on.
Okay. Yeah, we wish we were, actually. But
couldn't we have some sort... Is that better? I'm sorry, I am yelling, you're right.
That's very nice, actually.
Couldn't we have some sort of system where people who come to this country and say, I'm sorry, I'm Is that better?
No,
fine.
no,
just a bit lower.
No, I can still
hear
you.
Is that all right? Okay. Yeah. Couldn't we have some sort of system? All right?
That's great.
Couldn't we have some sort of...
Right, shall we carry on, Chairman? What he attached to himself?
Let James have his say, Mike Dickin.
Couldn't we have some sort of system where people come to this country that they're not allowed to have the run of the place until they've been assessed as to whether or not they have a reasonable...
And how would you regulate that, James?
Well, I'd stick them all in some sort of camp.
Well,
and leave
go
them
back
there.
Go back to the island principle.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's the only way.
But
the Australians do it.
I agree. But the problem is...
The Americans do it.
The biggest problem is the people who come here illegally. We're an island. You could come into this country illegally in any place. Up and down the Kent coast, along the south coast, around the part of, Cornwall where you are. You can drop people off in little coves there. Nobody would ever know they're here.
Well,
that's the problem.
But the thing is, they do.
They do.
That does happen. Let me just tell you what has happened, and this may upset you a little. We're not an island because we've got the Channel Tunnel, and that stopped us being an island. And we're about to become even less of an island because there is now to be a tunnel, and it's actually in process of being built now, from Morocco to Spain.
No.
There is. there is going to be a two...
That's appalling.
Exactly the same.
So you'll be able to go from Folkestone to Cape Town?
You'll be able to go from Folkestone all the way through to Africa. Morocco to... I forget the name of the place in Spain, but it's just to the left, if you like, of Gibraltar.
A tunnel under the Mediterranean.
They are 27.5 miles.
It's not much further than the Channel Tunnel, is it? 2 miles, that's all.
So it's just near Gibraltar, then, presumably?
Yeah, it's just to the left of Gibraltar. It comes up. Saint-Just or somewhere in Spain. But it's definitely going ahead. I know this 100% because I know one of the blokes that is going out there to help get the machinery in place to drill the holes. And he's been hired.
That's a worry.
He's been paid
That's a real... Because, I mean, Morocco...
Is this a train tunnel or a...
He doesn't know. He's been told that they're going to put a 2-tube tunnel through, exactly the same...
So like the Channel Tunnel.
Yeah.
It's a worry. That connects it. So we're all connected.
So Europe and Africa become one.
But the Channel Tunnel actually went wrong. Mrs Thatcher's original dream was that you can get into your car in Birmingham and drive to Paris. And then halfway through the project, somebody realised that for some unknown reason this was going to be so massively expensive that they changed it to a railway tunnel.
It was the fire risk, really.
But also, you can't really have people driving through there. I mean, you have these mad motorcyclists weaving in and out of the traffic.
Well, where do you suddenly start driving on the left and on the right? You know?
Exactly.
That would be the most interesting part of the journey, wouldn't it? How fascinating would that be?
Do it like the
It's
Irish.
a man with some onions and a berry.
The Irish suggested that the trucks change over at midnight.
Have you actually... Sorry, I'm shouting. Have you ever used the tunnel to go... I use it a lot. Just to drive on the train and... It's the easiest thing ever.
It is.
Far better than using those bloody boats that are always on strike.
But they're not quicker, you know. The tunnel was the fastest for a while, but now the hover speed thing is not hover speed anymore. It's catamaran, Sea-Cat. It's the quickest.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because if you time it right, you can drive to Folkestone, drive onto the train, drive off the other side without any wait at all, and it's just marvellous.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
So back to the issue then of immigration and asylum. Why is it? And here's a question for
why.
Here's a question for each of you. Why is it that if a politician stood up of any serious party and would say, right, this is what I'm going to do, I'm pulling the drawbridge up, it's got beyond a joke, financially we cannot support this.
They win by a landslide.
They would win by a landslide, so why...
So they can't do it.
Why doesn't somebody do it? Why can a politician not stand up? Why isn't Michael Howard saying
Because you can't, unless you are prepared to put stormtroopers into Calais or right around the coast of this country,
I would.
You can't do it. And until somebody is prepared to make this fortress Britain to keep these people out, you cannot do it.
I'd bring the army back from Iraq, bring the army back from Germany, get them to stand 3 feet apart around the coastline of Britain.
It's not
anybody that pops up, shoot them.
It's not a racist point, it's basic economics, Mike Parry.
Yeah, it's basic economics, and also...
It is a racist point, actually. I'm sorry, Mike, to interrupt. But, you know...
Why, you've done it all throughout. Why should you be sorry now?
Shut up.
Why is it a racist point?
Well, because it is a racist point. We are concerned about our race. We're concerned about Britain becoming anything other than Britain at the moment. And it's
not a racist point in the sense that we're suggesting our race is superior by mere
Well, no, we don't have to suggest that. We are superior. That's it. Forget that.
No, okay, fair enough.
But listen,
the
problem is, there's a survey recently that says more and more people in this country are becoming racist than ever before. And to an extent, you know, it's right. I even feel myself.
Particularly amongst the young as well.
Well, between everybody, because we feel that
in the latest survey, 1 in 3 have admitted to racial prejudice.
That's right. Now, when we talk about this little overcrowded country of ours, I sometimes wonder about that, because you've all been on trains where you come out of Greater London, and if you're going to Newcastle on the east coast, or Liverpool and Manchester on the west coast, or up to Scotland, actually, once you've got out of Greater London, once you've passed the old Wembley Stadium or Highbury Stadium, you don't actually see anything for the next 200 miles except fields. I'm not sure that we are a crowded little country. What I do know is the southeast of this country is very crowded. But, I mean, if we wanted to really get to grips with immigration, why not build a couple of new towns in somewhere like, you know, Warwickshire or Worcestershire or Northumberland or somewhere like that, and create communities where people could actually contribute to their own society and create their own wealth.
But you know, we are overcrowded. I mean, when you go on the train and you go through fields and you don't see all the towns and the cities that are around, and we are overcrowded. You go anywhere on the European...
Cornwall would be the best place to start building one of those new towns, wouldn't it?
But I mean, there's nothing in Cornwall. There's nothing there.
And that's the way it's going to stay. Thank you very much.
Except a
10 seconds, James.
Anyway, Cornwall is not part of England anyway. Cornwall is a separate country, and we'll have no more of it. I'm going to widen the Tamar and keep you out.
A
load of rude Cornishmen who go around with a black flag with a white cross on it, calling everybody
Clash of the Titans continues on TalkSport next.
'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse.
3-0 to North Pole United. Get in there. Oi, Rudolph, you owe me a favour.
Now you can get goal flashes and half and full-time football scores from all English and Scottish divisions sent direct to your mobile with TalkSport Match Alerts. Simply write a text message with the words results and then your team name in full.
Example, results, Charlton Athletic.
And send it to 86054.
Cost of messages 25p based on minimum 6 messages received. Advance billing £1.50 charge applies. See talksport.net for terms and conditions.
Ebenezer Scrooge woke from his dream and hurried to his window to see if it was still Christmas Day. He called out to a passing street urchin, "Here's £100 for you! Go buy a DAB digital radio for Tiny Tim!" The urchin replied, "You having a laugh, ain't you? They sold out weeks ago, mate." "Does it do digital?" "Only if you hurry."
Stir a bowl of gingerbread. Make some little men. Put them in the oven till it's 10:30. But bring one out too early, before he's truly finished, and he'll be weak and poorly, his little life diminished.
Tommy's, the baby charity, is raising money for research into prematurity, miscarriage and stillbirth. To make a donation, call 0870 7777 676. Please help us do enough.
Text. Text the word FUN to 89911 and join the UK's biggest one-on-one adult text chat service. Grab your mobile and text FUN to 89911. In seconds, you'll be chatting live and one-on-one. Try it now. Text FUN to 89911.
Over 18s only. Service provided by FTEX. For customer services, call 0870 60 67 68. Messages cost up to £1.50. Standard network rates apply.
On 1089 and 1053 AM, the UK's #1 commercial radio station is TalkSport.
This is TalkSport Clash of the Titans, the final push.
I'm Ian Collins.
Now, you're Mike Dickin, I'm Ian Collins.
All right.
And as much as you'd like to
I
be,
knew
Michael,
there was something wrong over here.
James Well is here, Mike Parry. Let's, on this point here, we've been looking back at 2003. We've talked about Tony Blair's government, the war on terrorism, the judicial system, the honours system, Posh and Becks, the royal family,
I missed
asylum,
that bit.
the Channel Tunnel. We've been through the lot. But here's a question for each and every one of you. What do you think we've missed in this debate, Mike Parry? What's the
Most
crucial
of it, in my
thing?
case, I haven't got a bloody word in.
Well, you were asleep for 15 minutes. What's the one subject we didn't cover that we should have done?
Well, the one subject that we didn't cover, which we should have done, is why men wear earrings. Because to my experience, to my knowledge, a man wearing an earring, unless he's David Beckham, and I'll make an exception for David Beckham, right?
Beckham.
I'll make an exception for David Beckham.
Oh, hail David Beckham.
Because he's captain of England and he's a fashion icon.
Yes.
But take some middle-aged little slug with a diamond stud in his earlobe.
Like David Beckham's father.
And you have to say to yourself, that guy's got a serious personality problem, because when a middle-aged man... I mean, you know, could you imagine Mike Dickin wearing a diamond in his earlobe?
I think so. James Welsh should come in on this, I think.
I have nothing to say about it. Okay, listen, if I wish to be the butt of all your jokes... Well, when I've had my ear pierced for nearly 30 years. Before all the yobbos and all those sort of things, I had it
Pity
pierced.
they didn't miss and get your head.
So you can insult me all you want. It won't make one jot of difference.
No.
But I have a pierced ear the same way that Mr. Parry has.
Why do you need
Excuse me. Has a tattoo of Everton across his lower half.
Posterior.
Yeah. And I had it for a little affectation when I was a young man, and I was a struggling actor at the time, and William Shakespeare, of course, and it was fashionable in those days to have one's ear pierced.
So it's a Shakespearean statement.
I don't know why. I did it for devilment or whatever. And then I kept it in through all the time of those common, horrible people who went to Marbella, or was the other place in Spain, or
Torremolinos,
one of those places for their holidays and things. I kept it in, and I now quite like it in the same way that, you know, Elton John.
There is a very serious reason for men to wear earrings.
Well, in Cornwall they all wear earrings because they're all pirates, aren't they?
Well, actually, it's to do with it. It is to do with going to sea. A sailor going to sea never knew whether he's going to get back or not, because ships were so dodgy and they might be killed or drowned at sea or whatever. And to ensure they didn't have a public burial, they had a private burial. They bought a gold earring and put it in their ear.
Price of their burial.
And that was the price of their burial.
Is that right?
And I don't wish to bring too many
Mike
people
Dickin
after me,
is like you're like the Bamba Gascoigne.
He's like the
of
font
TalkSport
of...
Well, I can tell you something else. One more thing about wearing earrings.
Yes.
You ask any optometrist about this. People who have failing sight very early in life often have their ear pierced, and for reasons that are not really understood, it improves their sight.
Really?
Let's get back to the question, and it's the final question.
Sorry, I wanted to mention that this was
10
my
seconds,
grandmother's earring.
Was it?
And when she died, I just took it on. You know,
Okay. Mike Dickin,
Did you take it off?
Anything we could have discussed, Mike, in this show so far that we haven't discussed?
What?
Oh, my goodness.
Am I still here?
Can you pay attention? We'll be asking questions
What are you
about this
talking about?
afterwards. Anything
Shall
we
I
should have
take
discussed
over
in the
while
last
he's
2
thinking?
hours?
Shut up, I don't need time to think.
Do you need time to think? We can give you
No,
some
I'm
thinking
here
time.
now. I'm here.
What should we have discussed in the last 2
Well,
hours?
we
that
should talk about the standard of service in this country, which is absolutely appalling. I mean, if they have a power cut, they can't take 90 pence from a quid. You know, there they are with their calculators. They're as thick as most of them. You go in the shops and all these little girls say, hello, hello, Doris, you've been out last night. Oh, I went to a knickers party, did you? Oh, hello, oh. And you say, excuse me, I'm here. Can you serve me? Oh, shut up, I'm talking to my friend. And you go in the bank.
He does that remarkably well, doesn't he?
Too well.
For a man with an earring, you're getting close to it, I'm telling you. You go in the bank, and there used to be a bloke with grey hair and a suit, and he knew everything about finance. He could talk to you in terms you understood. Now there's some 16-year-old twit in a nylon shirt with spots who hasn't got a clue what time of day it is, and he can ruin you financially by saying, I don't know, really. They haven't got a clue. What is it about service in shops? I mean, you're going to a restaurant.
That's one of the reasons why we need some of these asylum seekers here, because they're very good at service.
Yeah, well, you point to something on the menu and you say, can you tell what that's about? Oh, no, I don't know, I only work here. You know, you just can't get served in this country.
Yeah, but that's because you live in Cornwall. If you didn't live in Cornwall, service would be better.
In Cornwall, we serve ourselves.
James Well, what should we have discussed over the last couple of hours that we didn't touch on?
Well, it's a story that I think a lot of people have missed. And
yeah, you found it. Everybody else missed it.
It's all to do with the demise of Channel 4's breakfast television show called Rise.
Is that still on?
Eyes.
Yep, it's gone. And a young lady, in fact, she used to work here, called Zora Suleiman.
She did the phones for me.
That's right. Now, Zora Suleiman has been in a lot of the papers recently, saying that she's giving up television for good. When Rise came to its sad and sticky end, she's giving up television because her 36 double D breasts have actually become too much of a problem, that viewers have been distracted by her breasts, and she's giving up television altogether.
So what's the point here?
I would suggest to Miss Suleiman that perhaps if she wore something a little more
modest,
like a duffel coat,
exactly, and covered them up,
sack.
That the real reason she's saying she's given up television is that the lack of talent that she has actually now come to the end of its run.
I think you're being grossly unfair on a very talented young lady, quite frankly.
She was very good at answering the phones when she could see when the lights were flashing.
Well, that's only because of the size of her breasts.
Cruel and horrible, honestly. Here we have a group of middle-aged men having a go at a young lady.
Hang on.
A young lady who's trying to make her way in life and decided that one of her primary assets was in fact the shape of her body.
No, both are
It's very attractive to men. Good luck to her.
Okay.
I hope she refines her career.
She was upset that they were getting in the way of her development as a broadcaster.
Well, on that very point, I think it would be reasonable just to finally finish off. If we go around the table and find out what everybody believes their own best physical asset is. That one, when you walk into a bar, what do you think is the one bit that sells you? Mike Parry.
If I walk in backwards, the back of my head.
Okay. Forwards?
The back of his head.
No. Other people think it's the back of my head.
Yeah.
Or people think I got my trousers on my head.
Okay. Mike Dickin. Okay, James Whale. What is your best physical asset?
Oh, undoubtedly my earring.
Your earring?
Yeah.
Over and above everything.
My earring.
Miss Suleiman's breasts, by the way, have solved another problem.
What?
Weapons of mass destruction. They ruined Rise, didn't they?
And
should we do that take two then? Should we go out on Mr. Parry's record?
I think we're going to. And a lot of emails and texts have come through, Mike, and want to know, in fact, is there going to be another record for 2004?
Don't know. It's a big effort to do 2003, but we did sell 4,000 videos, so a lot of people at home over Christmas going to enjoy sitting down and having a bit of a laugh which is all we ever wanted to do in the first place.
Yes.
So thank you, everybody, for actually having a look at the video, having a laugh and passing it on to your mate.
Okay. Mike, any plans for 2004 that you think might perhaps, echo something good that Mike's done this year, releasing a record? Doing the marathon, maybe?
It didn't really... It didn't get so much released, it escaped.
Okay. James, 2004?
Well, 2004, that we should have as much fun and live in a harmonious and peaceful society as
Christ,
we can.
it's gone funny again.
And perhaps that Mr. Parry's next single could be Spirit in the Sky. I haven't heard that for a while. I think that will be very nice.
Well, actually, funny enough, my next single, as a tribute to working with you two boys today in here, is going to be Simon Smith and his amazing Dancing Bear.
There we are. On that point, this has been Clash of the Titans with Mr. James Well, Mr. Mike Dickin and Mr. Mike Parry. I'm Ian Collins. Paint It Black on TalkSport.
Oh, Mick, great to see you, son. Great to see you. No, go on, you have a go. No. You start, all right. Here we go. I want to see you
He liked Christopher Berg, and she liked Nirvana. He'd eat an onion while she